Okay, we are live. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Candidate Information webinar this afternoon. My name is John. I'm the OEP HR Manager. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. We'll focus on the legal researcher role that we have in the General Counsel legal team here at the OEP. We've set this up as a Teams event so that participants can attend anonymously. We are recording the session, may be shared with candidates who were unable to attend today. Please use the Q&A feature. This is device dependent, but you should see the top right hand corner, so a little icon with a question mark. This will allow you to ask questions. These will only be visible to the panel. Please do ask your questions there as we go. We'll address them at an appropriate time, and there'll also be time at the end for more. Please note there's a 10-second or so delay between when we speak and you hear, so we'll endeavour to pause long enough when we invite you to submit questions. Before we start, I'll just ask the panel today to introduce themselves. So, Peter.
Absolutely, thank you, John. Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Ashford. I'm the General Counsel at the OEP, which means I head up the whole legal team.
Great, thank you. And Kate.
Thank you, John. Yes, my name's Kate Tandy. I'm the Head of Litigation and Casework at the OEP. So I work in the legal team with Peter and manage several lawyers in the team and lead on our complaints and investigations function.
Great, thank you, Kate. So just to run through the agenda this afternoon. So Peter will talk about what we're looking for and introduce the OEP, then turn to the details of the roles, which Kate will cover. Then it'll be my turn to say a little bit about the application process and terms and conditions, things like that. As I say, we'll check for submitted questions throughout, and at the end, there'll be another opportunity. Okay, so I will move the slides on and hand over to Peter.
Right, thank you again, John. So to start, we have here a slide quote from our Chief Executive, Natalie Prosser. And I think the essential point, if I just draw out the essential points on these slides, the essential point here is about the opportunity that the OEP represents. We were set up around about 18 months ago, give or take, so we're still a new and growing organisation. We've still got a lot of exciting work ahead of us, as well as lots of exciting work already right in front of us now. And we're looking for people from a range of skills, experience and backgrounds to come and join us and really help us take the next step in our journey, in our growth as an organisation. And we hope if that's you, that after this webinar, you'll be keen to continue with an application and potentially join for one of these posts that we're at the moment. Do I tell you, John? I think I want to go on to the next slide, if you wouldn't mind driving. Thank you. So again, another quote, this time from our chair, Jane Glennis Stacey. Very impressive chair we have, and we're very grateful to have her, as well as a very impressive board. And here we're talking about what we're looking for in terms of people. We're very grateful and very fortunate, I think, as an organisation to have already excellent, fantastic staff, highly motivated people, motivated by the opportunity that the OEP brings to really make a difference for environmental protection in England and in Northern Ireland, which is where our remit is. And we're looking for more great, flexible people to come and join us. Looking for people who are highly motivated, flexible and adaptable, able to work across quite a range of activities because our remit is so broad, and coming from a diverse range of backgrounds, range of skills and expertise to come and really work with us on protecting and improving the environment. And it is a unique opportunity. The OEP is in a really privileged position for the work that we do and the impact we hope to be able to make. So we move on. I'll slightly now go into more detail as to what we are, the OEP. We are a non-departmental public body, so we are a public body sponsored by DEFRA, that's the Department for the Environment here in England, and DARA, the Civil Department in Northern Ireland. Although we are a public body, we are independent, and there are various protections in our founding legislation for that independence. Given the role that we do, which is to hold public bodies to account for environmental protection and their environmental obligations, independence is really key and crucial to what we do. We have a range of powers set out in our founding legislation, which is the Environment Act, principally 4 of them. We can give advice on changes to environmental law. We scrutinise how environmental law is being implemented. We scrutinise how government is doing in terms of progress against its own policies and targets that are set out in law for improving the environment. And we have a function around enforcement and investigations where public authorities fail to comply with environmental law. And that all adds up to a crucial part of a new environmental governance framework that has been set up following the UK's departure from the EU. And we are one of a number of cornerstones that make that environmental governance framework work. As I've mentioned before, in passing, we cover England and Northern Ireland. We also cover reserve matters. So that's matters that are legislated for by Parliament and are UK-wide. There are a small number of those matters that are falling within the environmental sphere. So predominantly we're looking at English law and Northern Irish law. And lastly, there on the bullet points, our principal objective, which is to contribute to environmental protection and improvement of the natural environment. And the way we do that is by holding public authorities to account. So the roles are based within our General Counsel Directorate. That's the directorate that sits underneath myself as General Counsel. That's a growing directorate along with the rest of the OEP. We're growing this year. Currently, we have 2 heads of function. Kate is one of those, and we have 6 principal lawyers and a paralegal. And we're looking to grow to eventually end up with 3 heads of function, slightly more principal lawyers, as well as these senior researcher roles that we are advertising at the moment. And the legal team is really crucial to so many of the functions. In fact, all the functions that I mentioned just a second ago, all 4 of our core areas of work really involve getting underneath environmental law, how it's implemented, how it's complied with and delivered in practice. And there's a lot of really interesting, exciting work for environmental lawyers there. We also provide general governance and legal support to the organisation, to making sure that the OEP itself is compliant in various areas, both in environmental terms and in more corporate terms, in terms of our governance, data protection, commercial relationships and the like. And we act as a centre of expertise because so much of our work is regarding environmental law. The core centre of that expertise is, of course, the legal team. But we need our colleagues in other teams to have a level of understanding and appreciation of the work we do. And so we provide a lot of training, guidance and support and close working with other teams. And we work in a flexible way. We work across multidisciplines in the OEP. So we are working in teams and project teams where we have people from different disciplines, lawyers working alongside investigators, scientists, analysts and other colleagues to really bring different perspectives and all our strengths and expertise to the projects that we work on. Just looking at my slide, the last point I needed to make there was, of course, that we are looking for the advertisement now is for legal researchers. That would be 2, one of which is permanent, one of which is a temporary secondment or fixed term appointment role. But I think it's really for Kate to pick up from here and tell people about that in more depth and detail. Thank you, and over to you, Kate.
Thank you, Peter. So, Kate, I'm just moving the slide on for you.
Lovely. Thanks very much. Thanks, John. Thanks, Peter. Yes, so I'm just going to quickly run through a bit more detail, as Peter said, on what this role actually is. So for those of you who are interested in applying, what would you actually be doing in this role? As you can see on this slide, I won't read read all of it, but to pull out the key points. We think this role will be well suited to newly qualified lawyers or experienced paralegals, and particularly if you're looking to get more experience in environmental and public law. I don't think there is anywhere more exciting to be in relation to environmental law at the moment than the OEP. We're working on some really interesting areas, and as the team grows, and particularly these legal researcher roles, I think we'll be able to do an awful lot more. So it's be a role that, as Peter says, sits within the General Counsel team, but I think it's really worth just dwelling on just how integrated the lawyers are at the OEP with the rest of the organisation. We're really key parts of those multidisciplinary teams, so I think a desire to work flexibly and across lots of different areas is really key. So obviously, as the job title suggests, legal researcher, you'd be leading on undertaking legal research across a range of environmental laws for all of our functions. So this could be looking at legislation, case law, regulatory practice, and legal implementation. And obviously another key thing that would involve is then actually drawing out from your research as to what does this mean for the OEP, what does it mean for the particular project. And I think, going back to the point that I made a moment ago around just how integrated we are, there will also be opportunity to do non-legal research, not so pure legal research to support those other functions. And I think also it's worth noting that as a team, we work very flexibly. So as Peter's mentioned, we have 2 heads of function at the moment, moving to 3. And I suppose we have relatively defined roles in as much as we have areas that we particularly lead on, but then the grade 7s, the principal lawyers, and the our paralegal currently really do work across everything, and that would be the idea for the legal researcher role as well, will be to work supporting the team as well as all the projects. So you might expect to assist in instructing counsel and external solicitors and other contractors to do some of the more in-depth research. And also assisting generally with providing legal input for our projects that are monitoring and reporting on the implementation of environmental law. And as Peter mentioned, another part of our function in the legal team that's really important is providing that training to the rest of the organisation and ensuring that our internal clients have good knowledge of environmental and public law to support their own work. So I think that's probably time to move to the next slide, where we'll talk about, what are we looking for, what kind of skills and experience are we looking for from you. And I'll just run through these again quite briefly, but I think just to say we're looking for someone with a law degree or equivalent, and that may be qualified to practice as a solicitor, barrister or legal executive. That we consider to be an advantage, but it's not necessary. As we say, we could also consider experienced paralegals. Obviously, you might expect to read the next bullet point given the title of the job, but we're looking for excellent legal research skills and a real interest in the law, I would say, real interest in environmental law, and ability to analyse and synthesise complex legal issues. So obviously that's a key part, but then equally as important, if not more important, is being able to then communicate the results of that research to the rest of the organisation and present that technical material in a clear and compelling way. And that will really be a very important part of the job. I think as Peter's alluded to, in terms of where we are as an organisation and how we're growing and we're new, we're doing lots of things for the first time. We're looking for people who are motivated to develop themselves and develop a career in environmental law, and we hope that we can provide a really good platform for that. And I think, as has probably also come across already, we are doing a huge amount and we want to do more. We've got a very big remit, and we certainly, those of us who are already working at the OEP, find that a really exciting thing. But we all do work at pace, and I think this role would suit someone that enjoys that kind of work, enjoys working flexibly, adaptably on lots of different things, and to tight deadlines. And then finally, just to mention, you also need excellent organisational skills, which I think is probably clear from what I've said before. So I hope that gives a flavour of the kind of things you'll be doing and the kind of skills that we're looking for in this role. And yeah, we look forward to you reading your applications. And I'm passing to John now.
Indeed, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kate. So we've got some questions. Peter, Kate, can you see them in the Q&A? There's one that asks, please, could you give an example of what the non-legal research might entail? I don't know which of you would like to.
I should think either of us could. I might make a start, and if Kate wants to develop. So if we take one of the projects we're working on at the moment, so we have a function of scrutinising how environmental law is being implemented in practice. So it's about how the law is implemented in practice. It's not just about the law as it's written down in statute or in case law. And we're working on the designation and management of protected sites, sites that are protected for nature. So in England, that would be SSSIs classically. And we need to do research into how the tools that public authorities have to designate and to manage protected sites, what those tools are in law, what the cases are about how those tools have been implemented, but also going beyond that into the sort of quasi-legal areas. What is the guidance? What is the practice on the ground? How is the regulation operating in reality? Talking to inspectors, talking to people who own land and are subject to regulation. And I think those are areas that are research, but they're not clearly legal research. They're more a blended approach. And it's part of our multidisciplinary approach that you can't necessarily draw a bright line around what is legal research and what is more practical research. And it's that grey area where I think Kate was talking about the ability to get involved in our research projects more broadly.
Thank you, Peter. Kate, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so. I think Peter's explained it well. Yes, those kind of where we're looking across an environmental area, there might be bits of research that aren't purely legal, but really connected to that project. So yeah, I think Peter's explained it well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I can turn to the next question we've got, which is for an individual who's got a Bachelor of Laws degree overseas, an LLM in the UK, is qualified as a barrister and solicitor in a common law jurisdiction. They put in an application for an exemption to take SQE1. This all will mean a lot more to you than it does to me. Would their qualifications be a good fit for this role? Or is it limited to only UK qualified barristers and solicitors?
You want to take that one first, Kate?
Yep, sure. I think we certainly would consider that application because, as we said, you know, we think that being qualified in the UK would be an advantage, but we are also looking for people who have a law degree. I think an LLM would cover that from the UK. So, you know, if you have the relevant experience that we're looking for, then we'd certainly consider the application.
Great, thank you, Kate. One more question's just come in. Is there a timescale for when recruitment for the further principal lawyers that you mentioned may begin? And might a NQ lawyer be considered for these roles?
Shall I take that then? Kate can add if necessary. I don't know if it was myself or Kate, but I may have misspoken. We have recently been recruiting for principal lawyers. That recruitment has closed and candidates appointed. So at the moment, we don't have any plans for further recruitment of principal lawyers. That's at the moment. I think there is still space for the OEP's legal team to grow. And if we did grow, it would be in the principal lawyer role. But those are not firm plans by any means at this stage. What we are saying, I think, with the legal researcher role is that it would be suitable for people who are experienced paralegals or potentially newly qualified lawyers and people who are looking to grow into a career in environmental law. So this might be a starting role where, if things turned out well for a candidate, they would be able to grow into a principal lawyer role at the OEP, or they would grow into a role and move on somewhere else if there wasn't the opportunities available. So we do very much think this is a role for people who want to develop, as I say, their career either at the OEP or elsewhere in environmental law.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, so there are no questions at the moment, so I will move on to the next few slides, which are for me to cover. So in terms of what you need to do to apply, so you'll be asked to complete CV detailing work history and qualifications, and a statement of suitability on how you meet the person specification outlined in the job description. Your CV and personal statement will be scored by the interview panel, and if the minimum score is reached, you'll be invited to interview, where you will be assessed on experience, behaviours and technical skills, also of course outlined in the job advert. Presentation or additional exercise may also be assessed either at or prior to the interview, and you'll be provided with full details in plenty of time should this be the case. Feedback will only be provided to candidates following interview. Fortunately, we can't provide feedback at this stage. And interviews will be held in person at the Worcester office. In terms of the location there, details, the roles are based at Worcester. The OEP supports a blended working model and will support a combination of office and home working, which would be dependent on business needs and individual circumstances. GB-based employees are expected to attend the office in Worcester about 40 to 60% of the week. Starting salary for SEO is 37,295. As you can see there, there is a 2023 pay award pending, but we don't know what that will be and how that will be applied. Civil service defined benefit pension, which is a very good scheme, as you'll see there. The employer contribution rate and the employee contribution rate there. 25 days annual leave to start with, rising to 30 days after 5 years service. In terms of the indicative timeline, application deadline 5 to midnight on the 20th of August. Don't leave it to the last minute. SIFT will commence the following day, and expect interviews to commence from week commencing the 4th of September, but obviously we'll have more detail on precise dates and times later on, and offers are expected by the middle of September. Some tips around your application. So in your personal statement, do focus on the person specification that's there in the advert. Use examples rather than just making claims. With regard to the behaviours that will be assessed at interview, do read the civil service success profile information. There's a link there below, but you can easily find it via Google. Provide specific examples for each behaviour. Structure your response, for example, by using the STAR, situation, task, action, result, or CAR, context, action, result model. Do use I rather than we. As I say, loads of information available online to guide you. Okay, so I now turn to any more questions. So please do submit them. And of course, the outline given during today's session is in no way a substitute for thoroughly reading the full job description and candidate pack. Please do submit your questions to us, and if you think of any after the session, of course, do get in touch, and the next slide will have the email address that will allow you to do so. So we'll just pause, see what comes through.
I think you are on mute, I'm afraid, John.
Oh, Peter, thank you. Sorry, all I was saying was that we haven't got any questions yet, but also that the email address you need to use is indeed on the slide that I'm showing at the moment, not the next one. So if you do think of anything after the session, please do use it to get in touch, but we will just give you a few more moments. Okay, well, if there are no more questions right now, we can perhaps close the session. As I say, do get in touch with us with any questions that come to mind. Peter, Kate, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. And thank you to all those who joined. Hope you found it useful. Goodbye.